Alright, in this video we're going to look at what happens with transformations when we look at it on a coordinate grid. Now our coordinate grid, the main thing that we're going to spend some time looking at is what happens to the coordinates, the x and y values. Okay, and the way that video is going to go, you're going to have an opportunity to pause the video and I'll tell you when to try to do the investigations, look and see how they rotate, and then I'm going to give you those rules. Okay, alright, so first thing we need to talk about is that a transformation maps a figure onto its image, and the main symbol that we use is this little arrow right here. We'll use that in a lot of different situations. That lets you know that we're going from the pre-image to the image. This prime notation, something that you really have not seen before, is used to identify the image points. So in that figure that I have down here, K is the image of K. Another way, that K prime is the image of K, and that's how we say that little prime notation. So K prime is the image of K, and that lets us know that K is our pre-image, K prime is our image. Okay, so in this one, my black figure here is my pre-image. The K prime, J prime, Q prime is my image triangle. Okay, all right. So make sure you're looking for those little prime symbols. That lets you know what your pre-image to your image is. Alright, so let's look at translations on what happens on our coordinate grid. Okay, all a translation is, it's a slide, which is an isometry because this figure didn't change sizes. That maps all points on the figure the same distance in the same direction. So if I want to, let's say I want to move a figure like this one, this example here, it says we're going to slide 9 units to the right, 3 units down. It's just like if you think about with slope. If we're going to the right, it's positive. If we're going down, it's negative, just like with slope. Okay, so our rule, whatever we're going left or right, we're going to add to the x. So if we go to the left or to the right 9, it's plus 9. We go down 3, so it's y minus 3. Okay, you could think of it just like with slope. Okay, just like with slope. Our next example here, we're going to skip this one. You're more than welcome to do this first one on your own if you want to just practice graphing. The one that I'm more worried about is being able to write the rule. Okay, so if I look at my two figures, obviously this figure here, this PQRS, that is my pre-image. And then trapezoid PQRS is my image. So I'm going to go from P to point P. So I'm going to the left 2 units, and I'm going down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I went to the left 2, so it's going to be x, since I went left, minus 2. And then my y's, I went down 11, so it's going to be minus 11. Okay, and that's what our rule is going to be. Okay, so you're going to use that whenever you're coming up with the monogram activity. Okay, so that would be a translation. And those are fairly simple. Now with a rotation. A rotation is a little bit more difficult. I'm going to give you those, but I want you to try to see if you can figure out what happens by rotating it and turning it first. Okay, again, a rotation is an isometry. We're rotating it about the origin. Most of the time, whenever you hear rotations, unless you're specifically told, we're going counterclockwise. Unless you're told otherwise, it's counterclockwise. Okay. All right. Now I'm giving you the first one here. A 90-degree rotation. What ends up happening with your ordered pairs is they switch. So it goes from XY to YX, and the Y changes signs. Goes from positive to negative. Okay. So kind of remember that. But definitely remember those rules. So for 90-degree rotation, it goes negative Y, X. Okay. All right. So what I would like you to do, and this is a great point to pause it. Try to see if you can figure out what happens to the ordered pairs when you rotate that triangle 180 degrees, and then try it again to see what happens when you rotate the triangle 270 degrees. Okay, pause it, see if you can figure that out. After you've done it, unpause it, and then I will give you the rules. Alright, so after you've done pausing the video here, the rules that happen with your 180-degree rotation, the X and Y values actually end up staying in the same position, but instead of being positive, now they're both negative. Okay, so they stay in the same order, but they change signs. And then with the 270-degree rotation, they switch again, so it's going to be Y, X. But this time the x changes signs. When it was a 90-degree switch, the y changed sign. For 270 degrees, the x value changes signs. Okay. And finally, with the reflection, again, I'm going to give you one, and then I want you to pause it and see if you can figure out what's going to happen to the ordered pair before you just let it keep playing, and I give it to you. Okay, reflection, we're flipping it over something. So we're going to reflect it over three main lines. Four main lines. The x-axis, y-axis, line y equals x, y equals negative x. Those are the main ones that we're going to reflect anything over. I gave you the first one. If we're going to reflect it over the y-axis, or our vertical axis here, the x's and y's stay in the same order. It's just now the x becomes negative. So if it was positive, like in our pre-image, it becomes negative in our pre-image. It becomes positive in our image. Okay, so that's for the y-axis. Okay, now this would be a time to pause the video. Try to figure out what happens whenever you reflect it over the x-axis and you reflect it over the line y equals x. And then when you're done, unpause it. All right, after you've gotten a chance to check out that, to see what happens, when we reflect it over the x-axis, again, our ordered pairs stay the same, but this time instead of the x being negative, now this time the y is negative. And when you reflect it over the line y equals x, the ordered pairs switch places. So it's y, x. Okay, they just switch places. Signs don't change any, just they switch places. And you've got one last very quick investigation. See what happens over that line y equals negative x, which remember is just your horizontal line. I mean, it's not a very good drawing of it, but it's just that slanted line here that has a negative slope and goes through the origin. Like I said, I didn't do a very good job of it, but that's what's supposed to happen. And then we want to write our rules. So pause it, see what happens, reflect it over there, see what you think happens, and then I'll give you the rule. All right, after you spent time doing that, your rule ends up being that the x's and y's are flipped, just like with the line y equals x, but now the signs have changed as well. So both things happen now. Our ordered pairs are switched, and our signs have changed. Okay. All right, thanks for watching the video, and be prepared to work on that little mini project in class tomorrow. Thank you.